Hey guys, in this video, there are some golden nuggets here. I want you guys to watch this video to its entirety because you're going to see really me go through the steps of these creative sales process, establishing rapport with the agent right from the beginning and asserting, confidence into the phone call alongside competence. You'll notice that I go through the gamut of conversation in regards to VA entitlements and how to overcome that with a subject to purchase or sale, as well as debt to income, as well as what if I become a knucklehead and I miss a payment, right? And so I'm excited for you guys to watch this video here. Put a comment down below of what your nugget was that you took away from this phone call. I know the camera's bad. This is a previous call from last month before I upgraded to this camera here. I get it. But I wanted to provide this content for you guys so I can armor with you. When you guys go out and make calls, you guys have the ability to take this information and implement it into your conversations when you're dealing with a veteran and their entitlements. And if you want to learn a little bit more about the VA entitlement and how it's affected with subject to transactions or creative transactions, also put a comment in down below and I can do another follow up specifically on VA entitlement.
What's up, Shelly?
Hey Shelly, this is Landon. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. You answered on one ring. That's amazing. I never get that.
I was doing some calculations on my phone sitting here, so I was like, "Oh, there you go."
That's
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
And so I guess catch me up to speed a little bit about the current situation. He said that they're wanting to close quick, and I have the house pulled up here on Zillow in front of me, and it is freaking adorable. And yeah, I guess just catch me up to speed.
Yeah. I mean, it's a nice home, barely 3 years old. Um, they are. It's already gone, or they're already gone. It's
Right.
vacant,
Yeah.
so they can move on as quickly as possible. His biggest thing is he's a veteran,
Oh,
and
okay.
um, the reason for the sale really is that, well, two things. One, they moved here for him to go to school. It was during or right when the market started going crazy and
Yep.
COVID,
Yep.
and he didn't know the area very well. He was running into multiple offer situations.
Oh yeah.
So they decided to build. And they rented, they built, it took longer, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, they found out after they went through all of that, that she really didn't like it here, and they probably didn't really like each other that much because they
Oh
were
no.
separated.
Oh no.
So, so that long story short,
Are
yeah.
you playing therapist in the middle of that right now?
Actually, it's not been too bad.
Oh, good.
They are not, they're very,
Amicable.
yeah, yeah. And she's already moved to another state,
Wow.
and he's actually friends with a past client of ours. So doing everything they can, because those people loved us and we've helped them through a couple of transactions.
Oh, okay.
But this one has not been as easy. Just and our biggest problem is there's solar panels on it, I believe.
Yep, I see that. All right. So what's this? I saw those. What's the story on those? Are they leased or owned?
So it is one, they did a lot of upgrades which cost money. Obviously, they cost money, but if you live there 3 or 4 years, with high price houses going up the way they have, then you get that back. But they haven't lived there that long, and then they put solar panels on it. So trying to get the equity out and pay commissions and all that, we're strapped on where we can be on price. So we've got a little, where we are at the 360, we've got a little bit of wiggle room, but the solar panels are about 2 years old, so they owe about 37 on those, and the first mortgage is gosh, I'm trying to pull up the
You're good. I think I have it on my end. At least I have an idea. It's like 265.
yeah, I was in my head, I was like 265, 270. yeah. So
Yeah.
there's where we're at, and then paying, seller closing costs.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yep.
we're about there. There's a little bit of wiggle room.
Sure.
But if
Yeah, it's crazy.
if
Like I look at this house and I just think back to like I guess the time when they bought it, and it's like this thing, and you kind of hit on it. It's like this is a beautiful freaking house. Like my wife would love this 3-car garage, beautiful big driveway, all those things. Like
it's amazing.
it's like all the little things. I'm like, this thing is like a beautiful home, and the fact that we're having and it's not just you. And I talk to probably a dozen agents a day and have very similar phone calls, and it's so interesting, these beautiful homes that are built in 2020 or 2020. My recent one was built in 2022, and it was a freaking 5-bed 4-bath out in Dallas Fort Worth, Texas. And so very similar situation. It was a divorce situation, and we were able to come in. It did not have solar. Solar is not that big of a deal in terms of how I typically acquire the homes. We've done solar leases, and we've done the when it's owned. It sounds like these ones are owned with the type price that it is, the 37K or whatever it may be. So,
No, they are not. Yeah. So they can either be assumed if at the price point that we're at, they will pay them off. The hope was for a buyer to, even if they wanted to assume, be able to get a second or give them the price point that we're at, or close to it, so that they could pay them off, because then a new buyer would actually be benefiting from the solar panels,
right,
instead of being in debt to them,
right,
where they are right now.
totally. Yeah, and the homes that I've purchased with solar panels, we just did one in a town called Layton, Utah, basically Salt Lake City, and they paid like this is insane. Think about this. They had the solar panels installed 2 days before they listed the property on the market.
Oh, what?
What? I'm not kidding you. Wild. I was like, oh, okay.
That would be like kicking and screaming whoever the one of the parties. I would have been like, you better get back over here and take those things off.
Seriously. And it made it hard. Like it made it to where it sat on the market, right? And it was all because of the solar panels. And so they were having a hard time selling it because no one wanted to assume it. No one wanted to pay it off. No one wanted to do this. And the market went down a little bit. And so they're in a tough situation. And so what we ended up doing with that property, I have it as a long-term rental right now, is we came in, we very similar. I don't know if Louis, I have no idea how far he's chatted with you, but we came in, we took over the payments of their current mortgage, as well as took over the payments of the solar panels. And so we have a servicing company that takes care of all of those things. And so the debt isn't paid off. It's just literally just transferred over, and we just take over those payments.
My biggest thing for my buyer, because they are in a divorce situation, is that he is finishing up school. He's got about 8, I don't know, like this semester and then half a next or something, like through the summer. And then he most likely will stay in Kansas City, but I don't know that he's sure that he will stay in Kansas City, but he's living with a friend and gonna be, putting all of his VA payments and all of that stuff away. And then he wants to be able to buy.
Totally.
Because he doesn't want to be a runner.
100%.
Better than to be a runner. So not having these still in his name would not afford him to be able to do that, and especially use his eligibility. He wants to be able to use his eligibility.
100%. He earned that. And I'm not, and let me be, I know you don't know me, but let me be transparent, as I have a heart before a back pocket, in the sense of I'm not going to stand in between a veteran in their ability to purchase their next home using their entitlements. And so I've taken the time and educated myself. I actually have a pretty amazing resource based out of Dallas. I'm out here in Phoenix, Arizona, but out of Dallas, Texas, that he is the senior loan officer for CMG Financial, and he's a VA loan specialist. And so I'm like, I need to understand how this plays out. How do entitlements really work? Blah, 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 blah. And so he gave me the rundown. So I'm looking at this here. I have it pulled up on my end. So when they bought the home back in 2021, They bought it for, basically, oh shoot, okay, so they bought it for 270, but their VA benefits allowed them to cover the closing costs too. So the original loan amount they bought it was like 276 and some change. Okay. So the way the VA, so if he's wanting this area, let's just use that for an example, and I'll tell you why I'm using that as an example. If he's wanting to stay in Kansas City, the way that the VA entitlements work, because you can have multiple VA loans out at once on your own self. And so the conforming loan limit for Kansas City just increased to 786, 400, and minus 276, 107 is what I'm seeing. So right now, next year, when he wants to, if he wanted to purchase next year, let's say, he still has $511,000 of eligibility to go out and buy a home using 100% financing.
Okay, so you've already calculated that out. Okay.
Yeah. So it's based upon the math, like the brass tacks math is the conforming loan limit in the county in which you're purchasing in. And I'll explain it further. 98% of the counties in all of America are the 720 or the 786 is what it just increased to. We just got the report last week. The other 2% are the cities like San Francisco and like Seattle and Washington, D.C. that are like much pricier, And so those conforming loan limits are over $1 million. So he has technically he has more buying power in those larger metro areas because the conforming loan limit is much higher, but also consequently the house prices are higher. So let's just use Kansas City as an example. So yeah, like right now, brass tacks, if he wanted to go out, he could get a second VA loan tomorrow if we closed on this kind of thing and still have $510,000 of eligibility. So now the question is, it transitions from, depending on kind of what house he wants to buy, right? Like I don't know what that looks like for him, but
nor do I at this moment.
Right. And he's just getting out of school and sure, 100%. Like we have no idea.
He's like, yeah.
And
he's
so
like, I want to get this done so
Yep.
that we can get our divorce done
Yep.
because they're still married.
Yep.
They want to get this done while they're together so it's not messy, and then get their divorce done and then finish school and then he'll figure it out.
I love it. He's got some plans. What's he going to school for? Do you know?
I think some computer engineering kind of type stuff.
Oh, wow. Okay. The only reason I ask, and not to get nosy, is my full-time job is actually a mechanical engineer, and my company is headquartered out of Kansas City. And so I was like, maybe he needs an internship here in, 6 months or something. I don't know. But anyway, but no, so in terms of entitlements, I mean, seeing a ton of these situations every single day that I do, like this seems like a home run. I don't think he'll have any issue unless he's wanting to go out and buy $1 million home. And so and so, too, like his eligibility tomorrow is, let's just use round numbers, $510,000. Okay. If he went out and found a home for $610,000 and he's like, this is the one, the only thing he would have to do is come up with the 25% of the difference. So only, what would that be? That'd be $25,000 to put down on the difference. Does that make sense, or did that go over your head?
Yeah, no. It
Okay.
didn't go over my head.
Okay.
I get it. No, and I've had veterans,
cool.
not do their. I work with my share of them, and I have a good friend that's a really good VA loan officer as
Great.
well. We're searching for other assumable ones so that he can buy non-owner occ, but actually do the full assumption.
Yeah.
So, a few of them out there are letting that happen.
Right. And we ran down that.
Are you interested in actually doing an assumption?
So that's what I was getting to, is I would 100% listen. So like I would, and if I was able to, I would 100% do that. But the issue is with me, and this is just being transparent. Number one, I don't intend to occupy the home, and that's one of the things. Number two is I would be purchasing this property in my entity, my LLC, and you can't formally assume a VA loan in an entity in LLC. It has to be in land and more. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's the issue with those. And also too, assumptions take for freaking ever. Like we had a seller that we ended up purchasing the way that I typically purchase homes right now, go through a full assumption, and then they denied it 2 days before, and it was already 164 days in. And
Oh,
so
shit.
it left them pending for freaking 4 months. The agent's like, this is ridiculous. The sellers are hating it. They've already moved on. Now they have 2 mortgage payments for that whole time. And it's like, this is a freaking headache. And so, and that's the benefit with ours too. And this isn't to be car salesy, but like we don't have any appraisals. There's no financing contingencies. We just set up the servicing, take over the payments. And then there's 2 documents that during escrow we set up to protect the seller and his interest.
Get into those nuts and bolts. I mean, I've had 1,000 of your
I
calls. You're the
bet.
first one that I have had it this extent. I mean, I talked to Louis for a little bit, and I'm like he's not interested. He's not interested.
Totally. I get it.
But um,
Yeah. I'll run you through it.
because he really wants to do the VA. So, but Louis is like, hey, please talk to my guy a little bit more about like how to work the VAs,
Yep.
stuff. So talk to him, please. I'm like, all right, I'll talk to him, but I've got to be able to understand so
Totally.
I can. So I've got that piece. I understand that. And my loan officer, I had talked to him in the meantime too about like, I know that they can, if they have a primary, that they can buy an investment, or, I know that they can have a second mortgage. I knew enough of that, but I
Sure.
didn't know how the eligibility.
And we put together too, and I can include it in an email. I actually have a document because I run into this so often that I had my team put together a document called the VA Entitlement Estimator, and it has not only some verbiage of how it works of what we just went over, but I also have a calculator that did the exact math of what we just talked about on paper, so you can have it in front of you and show it to him, or even send it to your loan officer and be like, "Hey, is this knucklehead legit, or is he just making up numbers?" And
Right.
and then also forgot what Landon said. And so I'll get that for you. But in terms of nuts and bolts, like I'll take you through, kind of the whole structure.
Security.
Yeah,
Like
100%.
the
So here it
security of
is.
the seller, because
Yep.
yeah.
Yep, 100%. So here's what it is. So this type of transaction has been going on for hundreds of years. But more recently, it's become popular, as you know, because interest rates are going higher and higher, one. And then it's becoming more popular. So TikTokers and Instagrammers are seeing it and watching one YouTube video and thinking that they can go out and do these things. And that's what puts sellers at risk, is when you get reckless endangerment, people out there doing, things that they shouldn't be doing. And so there really are 2 documents that protect the seller and in these transactions. The number one is called an all-inclusive deed of trust, and that's recorded at the county. It's handled by a third-party attorney. Like I pay $1,000 for an attorney to draft these documents up, as well as we sign a promissory note. And both of those 2 documents, I mean, a promissory note is just paper, but the all-inclusive deed of trust is really what's formally obligating me to the payments and allowing the seller at any moment recourse against me if I become a knucklehead and miss a payment. If those 2 documents, regardless of if you sell to me or not, like if you sell to Joe or Stacy or whatever it may be, because they offer more money, like I'm not going to be offended by that, but I would just say ensure that those 2 documents are put in place, because those are the 2 documents that allow your seller the most recourse. If I miss a payment on year 5 or something, and you're like, what the heck, Landon, I thought, and I disappear, you actually have documents that were signed, recorded, that formally obligated me as the buyer to those payments, that you can then take the property back. And so without those, I call it a naked SubTo, because it leaves the seller like very exposed. And so I don't process transactions that way. I do the all-inclusive deed of trust and the promissory note every single time. And so those 2 documents are critical for any types of these transactions. And we do those on seller finance transactions, as well as these. So the formal term, the like Webster's dictionary term for these transactions with it, when it's called a VA loan, is called a mirror wrap. That's what most loan officers will know it as, probably, that did it back in the 80s and 90s. But yeah, the all-inclusive deed of trust and the promissory note are the 2 like critical documents, is what I'll say in regards to protection for the seller. Secondly, too, I mean, this could sound backwards, and this could sound car salesy too, but I promise you I'm not being that way. Is the best way to protect the seller in these transactions is to sell me a good deal. Does that make sense? Because, well, no, here's what I mean by that is, like, if he set it up to where, like, let's say this home was owned free and clear, and he was going to sell it to me on seller finance, where he was becoming the bank. if he set it up to where he had a 3-year balloon and he wanted a 10% interest rate and I had to pay it off and he wanted me to put 40% down and all these things, like he's setting me up for failure. And I'm not going to be able to make those payments every single month because the property won't cash flow with rental rates, at those numbers, right? And so for me, the best way to protect for a seller, the best way to protect themselves is to know that they're selling a property that will rent for what it's the mortgage is and what the solar payment is in total, or depending on what my exit strategy is, because I own quite a few short-term rental properties. So I'm not saying that this one is, by no means. Looking at it, it just seems like a family needs to live in this house and put chalk on that driveway. But like, to me, that's another way to protect too, is like just ensure, and that isn't me trying to nickel and dime you and what, by no means. I'm just sharing with you, like, the biggest security things are those 2 documents that we hire an attorney to do so and protect it. That's all ran through title and escrow. They do a full title search on the property. Again, there's no appraisals, there's no financing contingencies. These things close pretty quick. Like I just went under contract for 3 of them yesterday and 1 today that are all going to close before the end of the year. And so starting Jan 1, we're taking over those payments. The documents will be created and set up, and being this one's vacant, like I don't see that being an issue either, to where we could make this thing happen super fast. Yeah, that's really it. I mean, the insurance, we set up a brand new policy for the property. All utilities will transfer. We deed transfers over, so we're responsible for taxes, toilets, termites.
Are taxes then on your
Yep,
name?
yep,
Yeah.
everything. Yeah, like literally go ahead.
Deeds in your name.
Yep.
Deeds in your name.
Yep.
And then you have this mortgage sitting on top of, what about default? What about non-payment?
Yeah. So I like to talk, so stop me if I'm talking too much. So number one, I do. I love talking about this. So number one is those 2 documents I just mentioned to you are the true, I call them security instruments against default. Number one. Number two, I set up a third-party servicing company in between your sellers and I. What that's really doing is doing 2 things. One, formally obligating me to the payments, as well as 2, putting a barrier in between and creating a receipt for these payments. Because what's going to happen is whatever that mortgage payment is, whatever that solar payment is, I'm going to make one lump sum payment to my servicing company that I pay $17 a month to set up for every property or every file, I say. And then they turn 2 payments, one to the solar company, one to the mortgage. In that, the seller is going to receive an email at the first of, or the third, I think it's the 3rd of every month, of saying, notifying Knucklehead Landon made the payment, made the payment, made the payment, made the payment, made the payment. And he's getting that instantaneous. So he's going to know right away. And if I were to ever miss a payment, he's going to be notified as well. And then immediately he can reach out to me and see what's going on. And if I don't answer, obviously he has those 2 security instrument documents to take the property back over, call you back up and relist it. Secondly, I keep 3 to 6 months, depending on what the exit strategy, meaning like long-term, short-term rental, midterm rental, whatever it is, 3 to 6 months cash reserves per property in a different savings account that is exclusively for if we have vacancies, or if the roof needs to be replaced, or those kind of things, for literally if a payment's missed, kind of thing. So I've never missed a payment. But in terms of protection for them, those 2 security documents and the servicing company are the ultimate protection for them in terms of default, allowing them to take the property back over because they hold the all-inclusive deed of trust, really. Because that's what's formally obligating me to those payments versus just.
And if you do then have renters in it, then and that's another problem on his hand. If there is a default, then he has to deal with that lease in place. I'm thinking of all the bad things. Sorry.
It's like my wife. You're like my wife.
Your contract for deeds a long.
Oh yeah, we're doing one right now. Yeah.
I'm older than I might sound. So
you do. You sound like you're like 28.
I'm almost 20 years older than that.
Oh my gosh.
So I used to work contract for deeds a
Yeah,
long time ago. Whenever I first got on into the title side of when I got my feet wet in the real estate industry overall. So I do. I mean,
that's way
it
cool.
sounds very familiar to me on how those used to work. Um,
Literally, the
but
only difference between those is just with contract for deeds or land contract. Like I'm doing a contract for deed right now in Utah, in Ogden, Utah, for a property that I was just at yesterday. That we're turning it into a midterm rental, but that one had down payment assistance, and you cannot take over payments of down payment assistance. They literally knock at your door and go, "What are you
yeah,
doing?" They call the note
yeah,
due. So we purchased on a contract for deed because with those, you don't officially record at the county. Whereas with these, with subject twos, you are recording, the deed does officially transfer. And the benefit of doing that for me as the buyer is especially right now, like I get to take the depreciation in this year, which I need. Like I'm right now looking at probably a $30,000 taxable hit this year of income that left that I need to find property. Like I need to buy 2 more properties this year to wipe out my taxes. And with this type
mhm,
of property, I would be able to do so. And so that's the
yeah,
benefit of
yeah,
having the deed. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah.
So
So if you had a lease and there was a default, do like then does he have to abide by that? I mean, obviously he does. There's a lease in place. But if you like defaulted, I don't know, you probably have not had that situation, but it
correct.
seems like it could
So
be.
here's what I would think to that, and you're correct. I have not had that, and that was the first thing I was going to say. Is like this is speaking not from experience, but just from thinking it through. Is like if I
Yeah.
disappear and he inherits the property, he obviously inherits everything with it. Now that being said, there's positives and negatives. The positives
Yeah.
is because I don't know. I would have to see both the solar and the mortgage statement to kind of see numbers wise. I don't know, and you don't have to share them with me right now, but like I don't know how much cash he's going to receive at close of escrow in terms of in his pocket. But number one is he's going to receive that. I'm planning on holding this property for likely 10 years. And then at that time, I'm going to look at the market and either call you and list it again, or I'll refinance if rates go back down to reality, and then it still can
Yeah.
cash flow at those numbers. And then that would wipe him out entirely and he'd be out of the whole thing. Same with the solar and everything. Um, but that being said, over that time period, he's gonna let's say at year 7, all of a sudden I become a knucklehead. I have 20 kids and I forget everything. And so I start missing payments. And he goes, "What the heck, Landon?" And he takes the property back over. He takes advantage of 7 years of appreciation on the home,
Right. Yeah.
all 7 years of loan pay down on that loan, because at that point, as you know, with the amortization schedule, at that point, you're starting to make more of a principal payment than an interest payment. And so you're paying down the loan much faster at that time than you are today as we sit here. And
Definitely.
so
Yeah.
those are some true benefits that he would be able to take advantage of. Plus, he gets all that equity, because like if real estate goes up, let's say 5% every year, he's taking advantage of that, over time. I'm saying over time. Obviously, the past 2 years are a very different conversation, but um, he gets to take advantage of that and sell the home and recapture all the equity that I've built technically that he gets to take over. The negative is you're spot on, is he could theoretically take a property back over that is completely dilapidated. I'm a slumlord. And so the tenants just took over the house. There's graffiti on the walls. Everyone has lip rings. And these tenants are knuckleheads, right?
Yeah. And they're
100%
gonna be
agree.
squatters and
A
he's gotta pay
hundred
rent.
percent.
Yeah.
And now I don't
Yeah.
know, and you tell me, but because I invest pretty much other than Knucklehead, California, I do invest in Oregon and Washington and Idaho, Montana. I love Montana because you can tell your tenants like, "Hey, we're not a good fit. You're out in 30 days." Whereas Oregon, I have to announce my pronouns and then say, "Hey, you have 90 days to get out." It is hilarious over there. And like the eviction process is absurd over there. So I don't know Missouri as much, but um, you know,
Usually you gotta, we're unfortunately Kansas City's getting pretty soft
oh
on,
really?
on, um, tenant rights. But yeah, it's probably getting somewhat, it's probably not as bad as Seattle, but they're trying. So
What I'll tell you in that regard is like number one, and this maybe will paint a picture for you. And again, you and I both know we can't control people or whatever tenants that move in and what kind of stuff in a certain sense, in a certain level. Now,
yeah,
that
yeah,
being said, this will give you a picture of my portfolio risk. every single short-term rental property I own, I require, if you book my Airbnb, I require you to send me a photo of your driver's license that it's you actually booking the property, as well as I require you to sign a short-term rental lease agreement, even if you're staying 1 night, 2 nights, 10 nights, 30 days. Um, a short-term rental agreement that goes through kind of the house rules, like don't touch the pool pump, don't smoke, don't, this, that, noise ordinance, all the little things. And because I don't want my neighbors to deal with knuckleheads just as much as I don't want my house's trash too, right? Because I look at this as an asset that I want to own, and in 10 years, it looks the same as it does today, And so, especially being a 2020 build, like the capital expenditures for me are going to be low. So I don't have to replace the roof tomorrow. I don't have to replace the furnace tomorrow. So for me, it's just going to be paint, flooring, carpet. If there's carpet, there's garage door stuff, every once in a while, maybe a water heater.
Too, and
Perfect.
it's nice, I mean, hard flooring, I shouldn't say
Right.
hardwood.
And so like I do my due diligence of screening tenants and hiring property managers locally that, maintain the property on a, I think it's a every 3 months process. They drive by the property and we do annual inspections and such. But I mean, obviously you and I can't control what they do inside the house to a certain extent. Obviously we can say no smoking and all those things, but people are people, but anyway.
Yeah. Do you guys then, do you do an appraisal? Do you just go do an inspection? Do you do both? If he were interested in something?
So here's how it typically works and how I operate is typically I do three-way phone calls with him and you and me on the phone, and we have a very similar conversation. You bring him up to speed of what you're comfortable, and then whatever's left over I can handle, just to make sure he's warm and fuzzy. Because if I'm a square peg for a round hole, I'll be the first to say it. We're not a great fit in his current situation. Oh, illusion.
Yeah.
Okay. And if I'm not a great fit, then I'll be the first to say it if he doesn't say it or you don't say it. Like, I'm not going to be emotional whether or not you choose me or someone else. I'm here to provide a solution for your client and or your seller there, and get him out of his situation. He's got a tons of plans. He's graduating school, going to move on with his life. He wants to put this behind him, and I can be a solution for that. I'll be honest, like, I don't talk to a single seller that I've purchased these homes from. They don't reach out to me. It is the payments are made. There is no correspondence whatsoever. Granted, I've never missed a payment, but that's the truth. Now, if so, I typically will do a 30-day. Now, if we want to do this before the end of the year, it'd obviously be expedited, but I typically write these up like a standard transaction. So 30 days on or before. Because there are no formal appraisals, there is no financial contingencies. It's really title just searching the property, me getting the all-inclusive deed of trust in place and the promissory note in place, and all of those things. My transaction coordinator facilitates all of that. I set up usually a 10-day, what I call due diligence period. And what that is for me to either fly out to the property, or if I have boots on the ground, they'll come video walk through the property and look through things. And all I care about, and being that this is freaking 2020, I could probably have him just send me his inspection report when he bought it. Because it's like 2 years old. So it's not like, I can have someone still walk it and I can just look at the inspection report and see if there's anything. There's probably nothing wrong.
I don't think he did one.
That's fine.
A
Okay.
lot of, I don't think.
You're fine. So I don't.
Wasn't his agent before.
You're fine. So I don't typically do. I typically don't do for. The only property. That's right. The only property I purchased this way that I did a formal inspection was the one that I have as an Airbnb up in Kalispell, Montana. That it was a 1901 home. It had like the original wallpaper on one of the posts, and so I'm like, I want to get some eyes underneath everything here, because this is a 120-year-old house. I want to make sure we're not walking into, you're right, but a 2020 house, like, I'm not concerned. Like, usually what I say is I'm not going to go after anyone for anything under 1,500 or 2,000 bucks, because like, if it's an electrical outlet, I'll take care of it. My guys will take care of it. Now, if the foundation's cracked, or if the roof's falling off, or the furnace is completely shot or stolen, then it's obviously a different conversation. It's more big ticket items for me that are going to be big CapEx expenditures are what I care about. But with this house being 2020, being like a freaking cutie pie, I'm looking at the photos right now. I don't think there's going to be much of an issue, but I'll probably just have someone walk it and whatnot. But that's really it. It's just to get eyes and ears to make sure what we're buying is what the photos show. And you guys did an amazing job on the photos, so I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me talk to my sellers. a little bit.
Okay.
I'll talk to him, and get his feels. I mean, I think has really the say, but she's got to sign off.
Of course.
So let me run this by him again. I talked, I'm like, hey, do you, because I don't know, about 3 weeks ago, they really, like ones that have been on the market like a week and a half. And I changed some of my verbiage up so it started hitting again. And I think the assumption was popping more for people. So, because it wasn't hidden, it was in the agent remarks, it was out there for everyone to see. Which I intended. I put that out there on purpose.
Right.
Because it does have a great rate for the right person to do. So he had asked me not to bug him with all of these type situations because.
Totally.
But now that we've talked through and I've learned a little bit from you and from my loan officer about the eligibility certificate still being possible.
Yeah, why don't I just email you over that document? I'll put it together.
Stuff.
Yeah.
And if you want to add Louis back on there, I think he had emailed me something, but if you want to, whatever is easier. Go ahead and send me that. I'll set up a call with him. I'll try and grab him this evening if I can get him on the phone and just be like, okay, I've talked to one of these offers a little bit more thoroughly. Here's what you're gonna get. You have now, we've been out here a little bit longer than we thought. It really is. I think we would be in a different story if it wasn't for the solar panels. But
totally.
unless they're there, there's nothing we can do about it. They either got to be paid off or somebody.
Oh man, yeah.
We just got to pay for them. So
let me ask you this. Are you local to Kansas City area, born and raised?
Yes.
Are solar panels like a popular thing that you guys do up there?
They're getting more popular, I would say, because there's more people with electric cars and things like that.
Getting softer, yeah.
Yeah, so I think people are, and I think they're appealing to the younger generation, maybe.
Yeah, they're getting good at sales and marketing. Yep.
Yeah, they're falling for the tactics.
100%.
All the marketing in their face. I mean, if you can just pay for them, I think they're fine. But if you have to put a second mortgage on your house, it's got no interest on it, and you don't read the fine print, then you get screwed like they did.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I have the reason I'm bringing it up, I was just curious from a weather standpoint and sun standpoint. I have them on the house I'm standing in right now. I'm at my house right now and in here in Phoenix. And
in Phoenix, I think it's
like,
an amazing idea.
Yeah, I have my power bill is nothing.
Yeah. We have to run gas like 6 months of the year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense.
So yeah, I mean, now I will say I put a younger single girl in a more modern style house. And I told her not to, but she thinks it's a more modern stuff, really thick concrete walls and all electric, and she has an electric car. So she put solar panels on it right after she moved in. I hope that she likes her house and she decides to stay there for a little while. But it probably will pay off for her. The whole entire house is electric. She drives an electric car. It probably will make a difference for her.
Right.
But that, yeah, I don't know. We have a lot of cloudy days in winter too, and use gas as well. So if you're using all electric all year long, and that's what your house is set up, and you get sun more than all the time. But like in the summer, we were paying, in my house is a little bit bigger than this one. We have 300 some odd dollar electricity bills in the summertime, and he was only paying like 90.
Right.
And I'm like, but you're also still paying $150.
Yeah.
For that.
It's true. It's true.
So sure, you're saving a little bit of money, but I don't have a second mortgage either. So I don't know.
Exactly. No, you're not wrong. Because also too, like when I bought my home here, I used traditional financing. This was a couple years ago when interest rates were like this house, and it was harder for me to get approved for the solar panels than it was the $700,000 asset.
Oh,
Isn't
wow.
that funny? Like just that whole
Yeah,
process, like getting them, they're like running through everything and making sure it's all good and whatnot. I'm like, guys, like I'm buying a $700,000 house right now, and you're worried about $30,000 solar panels on the roof. Like, come on.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
whatever.
I mean, he's like, I'm happy about having them. I just didn't know we were gonna be not staying here. So,
Right. Yeah, that is,
which
you
I
have to
get.
have a long-term plan and vision for them. It's not something that you get a quick ROI on for sure.
No, no.
Yeah.
And that's why it would behoove someone to, although does our price look, I mean, value has gone up. The house across the street sold for a little bit less than this. It didn't maybe have all, I don't remember if it had now when I was comping it out, it sold for a little bit less, but I think 345 or
Yeah.
350, something like that. And it had similar upgrades, but I don't think it had all the tile and stuff that theirs does. It was also a 3-car garage. But I'm like, if we get, our sales price, it they're paid off solar panels. So then you're just reaping the benefits. If you assume the solar panels, then you're not, and it's not as good as deal.
Right.
So I don't know.
Right. Yeah, it's tough for sure. Yeah. And I mean, that's pretty much been probably your conversation every time, after you do an open house or have someone walk through it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
probably the only, yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
okay,
I
cool.
think we would. I think we would have had a buyer on it if it didn't have that.
For sure. I mean, this thing
But
is turnkey.
yeah, 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 absolutely. And even like, I mean, super quick sale because it's empty.
That's true. Yeah, it's
So
true. Yeah.
they can, as long as quickly as the paperwork can get done, they can move in
Perfect. I
or
like that.
whatever.
Cool.
All right.
Let's get an
Well,
awesome family in there.
email me your stuff and I'll get in touch with them. And I appreciate your call and the details.
Good.
And maybe it will make him think a little bit more so he can move on with his life.
100%. And let me shout out you and applaud you for not only the time you spent. I mean, we're 45 minutes into a call right now. That is an amazing time because I speak to agents quite right. I mean, pretty much every day. And you're just a learner. You're wanting to learn and not only help your sellers, but if this one doesn't work out, that's fine. I'd love to cultivate a relationship with you moving forward of other opportunities in the area, maybe some other listings you have. And if I can be a resource for those, I'll tell you, like, 75% of my properties that I own or deals that I've done are from agents that I've done deals with before.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
once like you see the process through, like the additional benefit from your side is that like if we were to move forward and go into contract, I send one email to open up escrow with and CC my transaction coordinator, and she takes care of the heavy lifting and everything else. Like there's
Yeah.
multiple times where like right now I just opened up escrow yesterday with 2 homes. The likely I probably won't talk to that agent until close of escrow date, the final close date. And
Oh,
so
well.
there's not much for you to do after we get moving because my TC pretty much handles everything else. But I would love for you to learn too as a part of it and ask her questions, because then like you can become a rock star and be my boots on the ground out there to we can find more and I can continue to just pay your commissions for the holidays.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. All right.
Well,
Well,
cool.
it was great talking
You
to
too.
you. And have a good afternoon
You
in your
too.
sunny, warm weather.
I know it is.
And I'll look this over, chat with him, and we'll be in touch with both of you guys.
Sounds great.
Okay,
Bye bye.
thanks. Bye bye.
Bang, dog.